what does learning look like and feel like?
Well, there's the reality of what it is in many classrooms, and there then is future state or in current state in great classrooms, I think, with great teachers. And I have been taught by some wonderful teachers, and I'm a legacy of that. One thing I'd like to give back is to be a part of a system that inspires teachers to inspire learners to own their own learning, to be the drivers.
What does that mean to you, to be the driver of your own learning or to own your learning?
It's like democracy.
Okay.
The first philosophy is that democracy is not a spectator sport, right? And neither is learning. So it is the challenge of communicating to students, please don't sit and be passive consumers of information, policies, and ideas. There is a time to listen. It's not being passive though, it's active listening. That's what we want to teach. And then it is to involve and turn on the mind of a student and always be questioning them. Maybe it's the Socratic method, the question and answer method, because it requires participation. Why do you think that? What's the problem? What information do you need to know to solve that problem? What information do you come with to start from? Who would you go to ask about that? So it's that frame so that they could really take that of inquiries. They can take that in any topic. It's not just content specific.
Right.
Like a great teacher in science, or wow, I had a great teacher in math. Wow, completely have a hole in English. Or if a student can be inspired early on to know that they have to participate, they need to drive, and it is a relationship, but eventually it's they have to own their own learning.
So let's say that they didn't get inspired early on.
Right.
They're further on in their learning career. How do you rekindle that? How do you sort of re-inspire students to own that learning and to be that active participant?
I think you can turn on at any age.
Okay.
We've seen it in older people like myself and my father, who's 85, that as a wonderful thing about being in education is that we keep learning until we leave this planet, right? And so if you didn't get it young, and in some ways I didn't get it young, many of us are products of different systems and different cultures that maybe didn't inspire self-inquiry and having that kind of participatory relationship with education. That we were taught to be dutiful and listen and just do what we were told and obedient. It is a way of turning on the mind. It also doesn't have to just be from a person. It can be some of the greatest teachers I've had, and I know other learners as well. You might be inspired by a piece of literature, something that you read, by technology. Technology can do it, so if you didn't get a great teacher in your own classroom, but you see one, and technology opens the door so that you can do that. I didn't have that when I started in school, but kids do now. And that would be a hope I would have for technology. It's providing great teachers and knowledge and information in an area where we can't just put it all on the one person standing up in front of the classroom, can we?
Well, and I loved your question.
There are bad days and good days. And do they have to be a fabulous teacher all the time?
How do we use all our resources?
You've got it. And they can be a great teacher if they also know how to find resources.
Yeah.
They might be an introvert and know, wow, I'm never going to stand up in front of my students and entertain them with jokes and be popular. But I have the same hope that my student owns their learning and is inspired. And if my personality can't do it, I'm going to find materials that are enriching materials and a robust and rich curriculum. And I'm going to make this environment and have the students set up classroom structures so that students can use each other to get inspired. So that it doesn't just have to be teacher-led, teacher-driven. And isn't it, when they say, when you teach to learn, that teaching is a relationship, learning is a relationship. So that maybe for our teachers that can take some of the burden off and pressure off and open up their learning as teachers.
Absolutely.
To know that, wow, it includes finding great technology, finding great curriculum, and making an environment in my classroom that's inspiring, that's exciting, and that each student feels like I'm driving. Because people tend to support what they themselves create. We know that. I know that in my own
Say that
life.
again, because I think that's really valuable. You said people tend to support.
What they themselves create. And maybe I'm projecting, because that's how I acquire and retain knowledge most, is if I am participating in it.
Right, you're involved
And I feel
in
like
that process.
I designed my lesson. I designed, and I also own how I did on that test.
And so
I
when
own my
the
study.
students are co-creating that learning and are involved in that process, there's a lot more of that ownership and sort of buy-in for the learning and the environment that's happening there. I think that's really valuable to sort of call out and say that we have sort of a duty to one another, a commitment to one another to say, we don't have to be the everything.
That's right.
Right? And I find a lot of times that that there are conversations about whether it's teacher burnout or the ways in which teachers tend to say, well, I can't do it all.
Right.
And so I think what you were saying is, well, you don't have to, right? We are creating those opportunities, those environments, so that the students are the ones who are really owning that and taking ownership there.
That's empowerment. It's also equity.
Say more about that. How do you see equity?
So when a teacher empowers a student and listens to their questions, allows the student to student-centered learning. First of all, it empowers a student. It raises the self-esteem. And in my mind, that creates intellectual equity. So that there isn't I own this as the teacher, and you, please, need to be taught. That is an unequal power system, and I don't think it's inspiring. It's been used a lot in a lot of systems, but it's not fun learning.
Right.
And we want to do things that have joy. We want to do things. We're drawn to joy. We're drawn to fun. And that work can be fun, that work can be play. Isn't that the ideal of the ancients?
Right.
That if you do work right, that it ought to be, playing in the mind.
Right.
And that's what great scientists do, and inventors.
Right.
They play with an idea, and something bothers them enough, but they keep playing with it until they solve. And that's where the brilliance happens.
Right. If you if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
That's right.
And so I feel like you have really tackled this question and sort of solved for what learning looks like and even feels like. It feels like inspiration. It feels like co-ownership. What should we be asking of ourselves, of one another?
I think it's how we can inspire students as the self-directed learners.
How can we inspire
them?
students to be self-directed learners, to own their learning?
We can go, a little inspiration can take a student and a teacher, and an administrator and a worker a long, long way. If they feel like they're a part of something exciting and fun.
That they want to be a part of.
You got it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value there in simply saying, what is that spark? What is that entry point? What is that one thing that is getting you out of bed in the morning, or that you want to be a part of?
And is it just in classrooms? No, I hope it breaks open classrooms,
Mhm.
and that we have students who are learning outside of the classroom from the skills they learned in the classroom.
Mhm.
And then the world is the classroom, right? Work is the classroom, the world is the classroom, what they do on the playground, how they approach music and art and field trips. All of those are
Part of the learning
that's
experience.
that's what I would hope, that's the new classroom.
Hmm.
Not four walls and desks in a row.
I think the sort of the way in which you framed it as, you know, it sort of makes real the idea of a lifelong learner. You know, like we might say that phrase in education, like we want everyone to
say
be
it a
a
lot.
lifelong learners.
Right.
But
It's on every mission statement.
right. And
But
so,
how? I want to ask, how? And having the same kind of four-wall classrooms and the same kind of teaching strategies is not going to get us to people being inspired to want to be lifelong learners.
Mhm.
And it's a amalgam. It's teaching teachers to model the kind of behaviors that we want in students. So that means old ones like me have got to be
Learn
open
to.
and learn new ways of thinking as well,
Mm.
and recognize that I'm still a learner, and share that with students, so that when I go into classrooms and go into schools, I'm there learning also,
Hmm.
and that circle never stops.
That's awesome. That's really great. Thank you so much.
Thank
I really
you, Ben.
appreciate it.